Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on upgrading your technology to 4K for movie and TV watching. Now, I upgraded to 4K for a 4K TV player and discs about a year ago, and since then, I thought I'd kind of do a revisit of the whole idea of upgrading to 4K and let you know if I think it's worth doing for you. Welcome once again, my name is Austin and this channel is all about helping you to dig deeper and go further to better understand faith and film and everything that is in between. If that sounds exciting to you, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any future content. Now, this is a video I've been looking forward to do for a couple of months now, as it's, like I mentioned, been about a year since I upgraded to a 4K TV, a 4K player, and started watching movies on 4K discs. So I want to kind of give my thoughts on the idea of upgrading to 4K, tell you if I think it's worth it, and kind of give you some tips and benefits and maybe disadvantages along the way. So first, I want to answer the probably biggest question for people thinking about upgrading to 4K is there a difference? That's probably the question many people are asking who maybe haven't made that jump yet. It's definitely a question I asked of, is there a big enough difference? I still remember the first time I saw a 4K TV, I was with my dad. We went into a Sam's Club, and you know how Sam's Club has their TVs on display pretty much right when you walked in. And we saw those TVs and just stared at them for about 10 or 15 minutes straight. It was like looking through a window. So yes, there is a difference when it comes to 4K technology over Blu-ray technology, but the contingency with that is you have to have the right technology. Just because something says 4K doesn't truly mean it is 4K. It may be 4K capable, but you want to actually make sure you're getting your money's worth if you're going to invest in this technology. So my first kind of tip that I want to give is if you're going to make that jump to 4K, make sure you're investing in the technology that you're actually going to notice a difference and it's going to be worth your money. Because if you're going to spend all this money upgrading to 4K, you want to make sure you get your money's worth and feel like it's worth it to you. So when it comes to picking out a 4K TV, it can be incredibly overwhelming because not only are there all these different size TVs, there's all these different brands, there's all these different prices, and you just don't know what's the best one to jump in at. So my first tip is make sure you do your research. So my first tip for buying a 4K TV is I would first start at pick what price point you want to go in at. If you want to go in at the cheapest possible, know that you're going to go in at the cheapest possible, and that price that you're willing to spend on it is going to reflect the quality of the technology that you're getting. Because if you're only willing to spend $500 on a 4K TV, you pop in a 4K disc, you're probably not going to notice too much of a difference because though that disc is a true 4K disc, your TV or your player might not be able to play that to the best of its ability. So make sure you pick what price point you want to go in at and kind of stay within that budget. I usually recommend don't go with the cheapest option. I would either say go in at a middle price point, or if you have the money and you're willing to spend it, go for that top of the line. So I personally am someone who went in at the mid price point range. I said I don't want to spend I actually started on the lower end of the mid-range with my first 4K TV last year. I spent about $500 on the TV, and then I got a decent 4K player. I think it was less than $200. So I ended up jumping into 4K at about $700 total for my upgrade, and I got what I think is a good 4K TV and a good 4K player. Now, I would say the best price point to kind of jump in around about at is that $700 to maybe $1,100-$1,200 range as kind of the mid-level range, even less than $1,000 I would say. I would say $700 to $1,000 you can get a good 4K TV in that price range. You're not going to get the deepest blacks and the most brightest colorful colors, all that kind of stuff, but it's a good entry-level point to go into if you don't want to break the bank. Now, once you pick that price point that you want to go in at, make sure you do your research. I personally do a ton of research when I'm upgrading, when I'm buying a 4K TV. Like I said, I bought one last year as my first one, and then with the recent move that my family is making, I wanted a bigger one because I'm going to have a bigger space for my movies. So again, I jumped back to my old habits of doing research. I personally use ratings.com if you just want to do written research, because you can compare side to side two different TV models. So it's really nice for comparing and contrasting step by step each of the specifications for those TVs to see which ones are here or there and which ones are better and these things. So depending on the environment you have, the size TV you're getting, the model, you can see those little minute details and compare which ones make the most sense for you. If you just want a 4K TV to mostly watch sports on, you're probably going to want to buy a different 4K TV than if you want to watch movies on it. So that's really helpful, and it was really useful for me using ratings.com to do that side-by-side comparison. If you're looking for videos, ratings.com also has a YouTube channel where they do a number of comprehensive videos reviewing a TV, which is really nice because you get to kind of see what the TV looks like. Sometimes they'll do side-by-side comparisons in their videos, so you can see that as well. Obviously, you're not getting exactly what those TVs look like because it's a video of a video kind of thing, but it's definitely useful in the same way. Another great resource that is probably my favorite when researching TVs is using the Digital Trends YouTube channel. Now, Caleb Dennison is one of the editors over there, and he's my favorite person to listen to talk about and review TVs. I just watch him review TVs for fun, but especially when I'm looking for getting a new one, he is my go-to guy because he knows so much more about 4K TVs than I could ever hope to know, and he knows exactly where to go in at those different price points that I mentioned earlier, so he's an incredibly valuable resource for me. So Digital Trends, Caleb Dennison, any video with him in it, I'll put a screenshot up so you kind of know what he looks like. Anything with him, I would take to the bank. So definitely do your research when you're getting ready to upgrade your 4K TV, because if you're going to do it, you don't just want to say, yeah, let's just get a 4K TV and a 4K player and pop them in and we got 4K. No, you want to make sure you get in at the price point you want, but at the same time you're getting your money's worth, so you get an actually good 4K TV. If you just hop in and get the cheapest Black Friday model TV, you're not going to be impressed, and it's not going to be worth it for you, and there won't be as much of a difference. Now, I've mentioned this next tip in regular Blu-ray and DVD hunting. When it comes to making that upgrade to 4K, you are making the next step in that price point, because on average you can get brand new DVDs, like, you know, new releases for $15 for a DVD, about $20 to $25 for Blu-rays, and then $25 to $35, sometimes more, for 4K. So you are making a step up in that price point, so no, the movies will be more expensive if you're going to be making that upgrade to 4K. And now the reason I mentioned all that is because my tip for buying Blu-rays, DVDs, and 4Ks is buy used as often as you can, because you're going to save a ton of money. Like I said, most day one releases on a 4K, you're probably going to be spending about $30 on that release, whereas a Blu-ray may have only been $20, so that's $10 more. So if you're willing to spend used, and sometimes you can get lucky and find in a used store a fairly new release, I've found most of my used ones for $15, sometimes $10. I got The Invisible Man on 4K used at a store a month or two ago for $4. I couldn't believe it. So you can get really lucky sometimes, but know that used is your friend, especially when you make that upgrade to 4K, because you're going to save a lot more money. My last tip for buying 4Ks is, just like their TVs, not all 4Ks are created equal. So make sure when you go to buy a movie on 4K, do your research. You could be actually saving money and getting a better version of a film by just buying the Blu-ray. It's unfortunate, but it happens sometimes, and you want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. If you're going to invest in a 4K, you want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. So, for example, notoriously, some of the worst 4Ks out there are, the biggest one is T2 Judgment Day. If you find, I actually have it. I made the mistake. That was the first 4K I bought because I didn't know. I didn't do the research. I just thought, oh wow, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, one of the greatest action movies on time, on 4K for $8 at Target. What a steal. Got home, started doing more research on 4Ks. I didn't have the 4K technology at the time, so I was just kind of future-proofing that release. And come to learn as I'm getting into the 4K game, that's notoriously a bad transfer and the movie doesn't look very good. As far as doing that research, my typical go-to channels on YouTube to go to for that is Jeff from Films at Home. He's one I've been watching for years now, and he has a ton of knowledge when it comes to 4K discs and what makes a good release versus a bad release. Obviously, you don't just want to put all your eggs in one basket, so besides him, I also watch Mid-Level Media. He does a good job as well, but that's really cool to just hear people's passion about films in general, as well as get those reviews and comprehensive details about the release of what's better, comparing previous releases, all that kind of stuff. So both Jeff from Films at Home and Ken from Mid-Level Media do a good job at that. And then another channel I watch from time to time is Spare Change and Movie Guy 365. They do a lot more bulk reviews, so they tend to be shorter and a little more concise, but when you're looking for a release that's maybe not as common to have a review for, Movie Guy 365 and Spare Change tend to have reviews for just about every new release that comes out. So that's pretty much between those 4 channels there, you can cover all your bases as far as getting reviews for 4Ks. If that's something that doesn't really matter as much to you, maybe you are okay going in at that really low price point for 4K, or maybe it's just not even worth 4K for you, because if you're gonna make that upgrade, I want to make that upgrade and get my money's worth and actually notice a difference when I'm watching my movies. So there are some perfect examples of good 4K TVs, bad 4K TVs, good 4K Blu-ray releases, and bad 4K Blu-ray releases. So you want to make sure you do your research, pick your price point, and get in where it makes sense for you. So that covers my 1 year later, is it worth upgrading to 4K? In the end, I think yes, it is absolutely worth making that upgrade to 4K. That pretty much covers everything I wanted to throw in here of my buying guide, kind of here's how to upgrade to 4K type thing. So it's totally worth it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer as many as I can. Again, I'm not a wealth of knowledge, but I recommend any of those reviewers when it comes to TVs and Blu-rays, that kind of thing. I hope this video is helpful. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one.